Okay, so here we are. We have another nice day. So I thought I would take advantage. Yeah, I've decided that I'm going to post week 6 materials already. I hope that this doesn't confuse things for you. You've just finished week 5 and you're maybe only now thinking about doing the readings for week 6. And now here I am offering you the mini lectures on those readings. Well, don't feel any pressure to look at the lectures. Always better to do the readings for yourself, and then to think about them for yourself before you look at the mini lectures. But I'm going to give them to you so that you can work at your own speed. So here, let me just turn to my other screen and walk you through where we're at. So after week 6, what's coming up is the midterm. And again, the question for the midterm is simply, what does Augustine mean by the inner word? And I'm inviting you to begin your answer. Well, if you want to know what Augustine means by the inner word, you have to know something about the ontotheological synthesis. You don't have to begin that way, but I suggest that provides a segue into reviewing the materials that we've done so far, building up, as Augustine builds up, to the idea of the inner word. And let me just remind you again of the time frame here. For week 7, your only responsibility is to produce a midterm by 11:59 p.m. on Monday, the 2nd of November. You will see, if you're vigilant on Learn, you will see on the calendar on the left-hand side that it says 11 o'clock p.m. That's because I couldn't put in 11:59 p.m. for whatever reason. I could have put 12 p.m., but that leads to the confusion. Does he mean noon? So 11 o'clock p.m., but really you have until 11:59 p.m. on Monday, November 2nd, which is not next Monday. Next Monday is week 6. But then the week after that. Today, this is, just so you know, this is Tuesday. I just posted week 5's lecture materials yesterday evening. Okay, so what have we been doing? Well, this is sort of the culmination of a lot of hard work over the first 6 weeks. And really, if you are following the argument and if you are entering into the imaginative world of Augustine and the kinds of questions that he answers, questions that are latent in Plato and in Aristotle, if you're following that, then you've already accomplished a great deal, and you'll have a lot under your belt already by the time you come to write the midterm. Key to this is the notion of the premodern ontotheological synthesis, where the divine, the anthropic, and the natural realms are connected. Looking at your discussion posts and looking at your journals, I can see that some of you are really beginning to track how Augustine takes a common idea from Ionian thought, from Greek thought, from Roman thought, the idea of physis or natura or cosmos, and overlays on top of that the Christian understanding of the word and Augustine's interpretation of John 1:1. So you're beginning to work within the sort of framework that he himself is working in, and we need that if we're going to make sense of what it is that he's trying to do. We have to understand the ontological environment that he shares with other people, and it's an environment that again differs considerably from the modern environment. And some nice posts about the contrast between those things and about semiotics as a modern phenomenon, which in some ways it is, and in some ways it isn't. I think even though Augustine might not have used this word exactly, he certainly knew words for signs. Even if he didn't know modern semiotics exactly, what he's doing shares a lot of the same terrain. So there's that. And we saw last week how Augustine elevates language, that rhetoric is the basis for confidence that the world is knowable. It's the problem here is, are you connected to the world around you? Or are you caught in some kind of a bathysphere, or surrounded by padding that separates you from the world? Are you connected to reality? It's a problem. It's a problem that's exacerbated by the modern understanding of technology. We get mastery, we get knowledge, we get insight, but at the expense of feeling alienated. Alienated is not such a popular word these days. It was more popular, I suppose, at the start of the 20th century, but it's hung on. It's hung on. And certainly that modern sense of ennui or angst, or however you want to call it, has to do with the sense that we want to feel like we belong. So themes like home, themes like belonging, share a similar terrain, and they're getting at a fundamental question, one that takes on a new form in modernity. And the notion that language could be the thing that connects us rather than the tool that we use to connect us, that it's somehow different, that it's not a tool, but that it is a manifestation of our connectedness to things and to other people and to the divine. That's an interesting thought. And I'm trying to suggest that that's a core thought to be having as a student of rhetoric. So we tried to tease that out last time. I wish I was with you in class. I wish I could be answering your questions. I'm imagining that some people are going to, I've had a couple of visitors to my office hours, but I'm imagining that more people might come to office hours, so I'll have a better sense this week of how you're grappling with that idea. Had a couple of really nice poetic posts this week that were really, I think, capturing this idea, or intrigued by this idea and not quite sure what to make of it. But the notion that the inner word is more than a thought. We don't begin with thought that finds its way into language, but that thought and language, properly understood, have their beginning together. This is a point that Zimmerman really stresses. And this is a point, too, that is there in that reading from Gadamer a couple of weeks ago. Remember that page 416, where he's talking about how, in some mysterious way, the word is like the thing that it represents. It seems fabulous to us, maybe childish, maybe romantic, maybe, I wish it were true, but he's taking it seriously, and as we have discussed, he's getting that from Augustine. That'll be part of, again, what we do this week. So the inner word, more than a thought, it's connected to the being of a thing. And that presents us with this phenomenon that as finite beings, we can only unfold our knowledge of a thing over time. Even a small thing hits us as a whole that is beyond our capacity to articulate all in one go. And especially for historical knowing, for knowing in the arts, for knowing human things, for knowing as humans, the human dimension of knowing, that this is true, that our finitude comes into play. Okay, so this week's main points then, really, it's just kind of repeating what we've already seen in week 5 with the Augustine and the Zimmerman reading, but we build on it a little bit. So that idea that appropriation and interpretation are the same. That's maybe a new formulation, but it should now be a familiar idea that we read according to our finitude, according to our circumstances. You can use the word subjective for this, but you have to be careful about what you mean by the idea of the subjective. We're not simply locked into our own perspective, at least not within a participatory understanding of reality. So when you use words like subjective or perspectival, always catch yourself. Think, well, what are my assumptions about what those words mean? When did I learn those words? What's the context in which those words have been used? What are the assumptions that go along with that? Now, with the idea of appropriation, what comes onto the horizon in a strong way in this reading is the idea that creativity is part of what we do. Our rhetorical creativity, our participation in the thing known is part of its being. And our take on it in our historical moment is part of the fullness of the thing. So this is a real shot in the arm for the notion of creativity. Our knowledge is participatory. Really nice paragraph there where Zimmerman uses that phrase and kind of comes back to an idea and consolidates an idea that we've been working with all along. And he introduces another word that's pretty important for thinking about these things, the event quality of knowing, or the eventedness of knowing. Again, the notion of the event is that something reaches you as a whole, reaches you in its entirety, but then, given our finitude, has to be explored from various angles and can be explored from various angles. This reading also includes the notion that along those lines of eventedness, that truth and beauty are similar. The truth is not just a matter of, some of you have been using this threefold division in understanding ancient rhetoric, or the notion of the logos. Rhetoric isn't just a matter of, or the truth isn't a matter of logos and beauty is a matter of something else. But the notion that in beauty, something strikes you as beautiful. It's a particular theory of beauty, granted, but it goes along with the theological synthesis. And that notion of wholeness and beauty, or of the form of something striking you as a whole, striking you all at once, is something shared in between beauty and truth. So Plato's three transcendentals, truth, beauty, and goodness, we get kind of unpacked here a little bit. We can understand a little bit more about them. In a future lecture, we're going to talk about the idea of form, and we'll be thinking thoughts like this when we do that. We'll be using Dupre for that. I think that's going to be week 9. Anyway, I want you to be looking out for that. And then we're going to look at another reading. It's there in your readings. The first reading is Zimmerman. The second reading right below it is a PowerPoint presentation. It's a different kind of file. So you might think that it's a lecture. It's not. It's there as the readings, and so there are 3 poems there as well as 2 pieces of art. And what these do is they illustrate how this phenomenon of apprehending something as a whole, but having to unfold it over time, is taken up as a fundamental theme in Western art and literature, Western culture, Western civilization, Western rhetoric. And so we can see how this idea just runs and runs. You might think, oh, it's antiquated, it's dated, I don't need to know about that, or isn't that an interesting idea for its time? You might, I don't know, be inclined to, pat Augustine on the head. But that won't do. That won't do. Thinking about its influence over time is challenging. And again, one of the things it challenges is residual assumptions that we have from within modernity. Okay, I think that's all I want to say for now, and I'm going to come back to you with a little summary. All right, I'll leave it there.